Hello and welcome back. This is Penny Sansevieri and Amy Cornell, and this is the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. I'm really excited about this show. I know I probably say that with every show, Amy, but I'm really excited about the show because we're talking, this is such a hot button for authors in terms of social media and burning out, because social media can be such a time suck. In fact, you and I were talking about that in the green room before we started recording.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a little bit, and one of the things that Amy does all of the social media for the company. So if you ever don't like anything I put it out there, email her.
That should go in the outtakes.
I know. I definitely go in the outtakes. But seriously, social media is. It's a big topic. So we're going to break it down for you in the show on how to kind of maximize your social media and minimize your effort, which is obviously what we all want to do. But first, yay! So Book to Bestseller is going up for pre-order soon. By the time this particular podcast lands, it'll probably be in another week or so. So we are going to do lots and lots of fun stuff, which we're still designing, by the way. So in case you think that we have our act together completely and we're totally ready to go with the promo for Book to Bestseller, let me just say, as we're recording this, by the way, so not the week of launch date, we're still trying to figure everything out. Amy, tell us what we're going to be doing, sort of.
Oh my gosh. If y'all could see our list of ideas that we've come up with, it's always quite a robust list that we then whittle down into things that two humans could possibly manage to pull together.
Right.
Intelligently.
Right.
But no, it is very exciting. We're going to do a lot of pre-order promotions for sure. So definitely follow on social. If you don't get our newsletter yet, definitely sign up for the newsletter. You can do that on the blog page of our website, because a lot of what we do for the book is very timely. So we will run different promotions throughout the entire pre-order. And usually you have to act somewhat quickly in order to get in on all of the best prizes. So there will be giveaways. There's going to be prize packs. We've got a lot of really author-centric cool stuff. So there's really, I'm very excited about this one, actually, all the different ideas that we've come up with things, because everybody loves to get cool, fun stuff that lets them wear their authorship badge with honor, and kind of brag about that. So we're really focused on helping you brag about yourself, which is kind of appropriate for a social media episode, I think,
Right, exactly. And so we're going to be doing, specifically focused on the pre-order time, we're going to be doing prize packs and goodies and entering into a contest to win prizes and grand prizes to try to get, to boost the visibility of her Book to Bestseller up right out of the gate during the pre-order. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. I'm so thrilled that the book is finally done. Most of you probably know that by the time you get done with the book, I don't hate the book, but I'm kind of done. Like I'm just super done with I'm like, oh, please don't make me read my book again because I'm so over it. So we all know that social media is really important, and I've got some statistics. I don't want to sound too canned here, but I've got a couple of statistics that I do want to read related to social media. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, the three most common social media platforms, as we know, no surprise. YouTube, and I always feel guilty when I read this because I know that I need to be on YouTube more. YouTube is the second most popular website after Google. Like that to me is kind of stunning, right? Facebook is a primary content distribution channel for marketers today. And over 1.6 billion people around the world are connected to a small business on Facebook, which just it's staggering how influential social media can be. One of the things that they don't talk about, so what is it? 74% of Facebook users report using the site at least once a day. 63% of Instagram users report logging in at least once a day. The truth of the matter is that these numbers are usually decidedly higher, because I think when you're on, when you're managing your own social media, even though Amy manages the company social media, I'm still on there way more than I need to. And I think the biggest question or the biggest challenge for authors is the fact that it's such a time suck. So hopefully we're going to pare that down a little bit for you. But the biggest issue is what is your social media presence saying about you right now? So we just did a branding episode, which landed 2 weeks ago on the podcast. If you haven't listened to it, definitely tune in because we talk about the same thing. Everything that you're putting out there is telling people a story. And a lot of authors hop onto social media without a real plan or an idea of what they're going to say. And I think at the core level, what makes social media successful is really being able to isolate your message down to a sentence or two. So, your elevator pitch, as it were. What happens is authors hop on social media and kind of do all the things and then burn out because all the things they do are not getting the kind of traction. They're getting zero traction. So it feels disappointing. So if you're listening to this and you're nodding, thinking, oh my gosh, that's me. None of the stuff that I'm putting out there is getting traction. We're going to hopefully get down to some nitty gritty and specific tactics to succeed in social media without spending a ton of time posting, a ton of time, because social media can be such a black hole. And I'm a huge fan of don't be everywhere that matters. And a great example of this is when I got all excited about Clubhouse, which if you're not familiar with it, I did a post on this on our blog, but it's basically just an audio only app where you get on there and you start talking. So teach a class or whatever. And Amy's laughing, right? So I send it to Amy. I'm like, I'm super excited about Clubhouse. Let's get on Clubhouse. What are you going to do on Clubhouse? And she literally never responded to me. Which generally, if I don't hear from Amy, that's usually her answer.
It doesn't happen very often, but I will say, yeah, depending on when that email lands in the big scheme of things, sometimes it's like, like just,
I know. And I just imagine she opens that email and she's just like rolling her eyes, like, really, Penny? Like, what are we doing?
If there were, everybody just needs to know if there were 3 of Penny, then I would be a lot more accommodating to all so many ideas that cross our respective desks. Believe me, it is just, so many hours in a day.
So many hours in a day. Yeah, absolutely.
So many hours in a day. But to your point, it's so easy to get pulled in too many directions.
Yeah.
And even if you're hiring out your social, it's hard to keep it from getting repetitive. So, thinking about like, well, I can just hire somebody to do it. But it's really, if somebody else is speaking for you forever and you're not involved at all, it gets a lot less personal. I mean, that's how social media management companies make things work, obviously. And you just have to be really careful about, you can't just farm it out because it gets less interesting to your followers too. So even for those of you that are thinking like in the back of your head, like, wait, I could skip all of this hard stuff they're talking about and have somebody else do it for me. Yes, but at the same time, you do need to be involved to some extent in order to keep it really organic and to keep it really interesting. Penny and I have worked very closely together for a very long time, and that's why it's able to work. But really, the answer is very rarely just handing it off to somebody until the end of time. Even the social media campaigns that we do for our clients, Penny, we're very specific about where we draw the line with it. Our goal is to help people get their platform launched on social and to, at the same time, educate them, get them something that they can build off of and work from. But even we have not designed our plans to necessarily be the do-all, end-all for their social until the end of time, because it's really, people respond in this day and age, especially when you can buy followers, you can buy likes and all that stuff. Users are smarter about what they engage with, and they know when things are genuine and when they're not. So really the first big step, honestly, when it comes down to deciding where to be and doing it right, is deciding where you need to be. As Penny said, don't be everywhere, be everywhere that matters. So pick a platform that makes sense for who you're trying to sell books to. Different sites have different demographics for a reason, different goals. And I don't mean the site's goals, but the user's goals. So people get on that particular platform for a reason. Quick examples, Instagram, has become a hub for lifestyle topics and a lot of things that have to do with hobbies and interests. And it's overwhelmingly positive content. it's really not considered the go-to for political conversations, for example. So there really are different reasons people engage on different platforms, and that should absolutely matter when deciding where to spend your time.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And I think that if you view social media platforms by how their audience interacts with them, you'll have a much easier time of figuring out where you belong. So Twitter, for example, is like walking into a big networking event with 5,000 or 5 million people. You use Twitter is lives and dies by hashtags, which help to isolate or create conversation silos, as it were, so that you're not just feel like you're being blasted with 5 million conversations at once.
Absolutely. I think my personal opinion is that Twitter is really great for people who like fast-paced conversations. Like you said, they like sound bites, they like headlines. You have to be really concise. And honestly, you have to be really opinionated. And I know a lot of us can say, we're like, well, I'm opinionated about some stuff, but to really be effective on Twitter, you have to be opinionated and be smart about how you communicate those opinions and your knowledge and your expertise and things like that. You have to have a really very strong voice to be on Twitter. You know, going back to your networking event, Penny, you have to be that person that can start talking and people turn around in that room and start listening. Like Twitter demands that. There's no soft footing Twitter. And on Twitter, you have to be willing to show up daily when you're really starting to ramp up your following and your engagement. If you're just getting started there, you have to be there a lot. And again, that really fits for some people's personalities. It's little bits, but often. So the most successful Twitter influencers are showing up multiple times a day. And it's a great platform for current events, very specific industry topics, things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And Instagram and Facebook, though not the same platforms, I mean, you really do much better there with some cool imagery, right?
Oh, absolutely. Instagram is definitely all about the images. If you don't have a natural flair for composition and design and things like that, if you're not somewhat artistic, you find those challenging, might find Instagram challenging unless you commit to learning and using sites like Canva, for example, is a great image creation site because they have wonderful templates and thousands of them. So don't worry about like showing up next to another author using the same template. Like they really do have a lot to work with. It's a great platform. But you do need to tackle that learning curve because I will say, Instagram, you can hurt your brand more than help it if you just start throwing everything on your phone up there and calling that your brand. We really do have to be more thoughtful about it. Facebook isn't quite as image centric. I mean, Instagram quite literally requires it, but Facebook also, the stats are there that, multiple studies have proven that posts on Facebook that have images that are relevant to the content get more like 30% or more engagement than posts with just text alone. So it definitely matters on Facebook too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things though too is that I'm a big fan of creating accounts to secure your username, but redirecting folks to your main platform. So let's say that you come away from this and you think, oh, you know what, Twitter is where I really want to be. You could very easily create an Instagram account that redirects, follow me on at whatever. So mine is at BookGal, follow me on at BookGal at Twitter. But if that's, that's something that you can say, well, I want to own those names. I think that's definitely important. But then you can kind of pare it down and focus on one platform. One of the things that I like to tell authors is, find your platform that you really feel resonates both with your readers, where your readers are. That's the most important. And then obviously, if it resonates with your readers, it's going to resonate with your brand, and really start to dig in there and get familiar with that and get good at it. And then you can move on to something else. So secondarily, if you say, well, I really like YouTube, for example, because even though YouTube is not social media per se, you may say, you know what, I understand, but I can create a lot of content on YouTube and then I can repurpose it and use it on Facebook, let's say, right? And then start to move into other other social media sites. Start with one, because a lot of times what happens is that authors launch their campaigns, get all the things, get all the social media sites, and then just sit there and go, I don't know what I'm going to say. And that's a problem, because if you open up those accounts as opposed to redirecting them and say, hey, I'm posting on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and otherwise it just looks like you've abandoned your own message. And I see this all the time when folks haven't posted on accounts for 6 months or something. I'm like, well, did they retire, or they moved to Fiji? Like, what's happening? What's going on? So, and let's talk about the conversation that you're going to have. I always recommend find 5 tracks that you'll speak to, right? So, and 5 tracks, meaning 5 different topics that you're going to address, because that really helps to sort of narrow it down. And then everything fits into one of those 5 buckets, right? So one of those obviously is going to be your book. Another track, another bucket, right, quote unquote, might be quotes from your book or images from your book, or character images, the town it's set in. If you've done a book on history or historical fiction, you've got a lot of stuff that you can share right there. But find 5 different tracks and then stick with those. And you can expand out later once you've started to really see people responding to what you're posting. But I really recommend to start with 5.
Yeah, I like that, because the important thing to remember also is that the general, consensus is that no more than roughly 20% of your content should be focused on outright selling your book.
Right.
And a couple of your examples, Penny, like with the quotes and digging into specific characters more than you do in your book, things like that kind of help you with that loophole, because you're bringing your book to the forefront, but you're not outright saying like, here, this is where you buy it, because people get tired of that. They are not going to continue showing up to see what you have going on if all you scream at them all day is that you have a book for sale, because nobody has time for that. That's, that gets boring real quick. So I always encourage our clients to incorporate their other marketing efforts into this 20% too. So, and it's amazing how quickly it fills that up. So if you're running a limited time discount, that is a great way to highlight that you have a book. If you're doing a Goodreads giveaway, mention it on your other social accounts. Any blogger or media coverage you've gotten, then that's also great, because that's also great networking. So kind of a bonus to that is that you get a chance to, tag that site or that media or that interviewer or whatever in your post. They love that. That's really great networking to do on social as well, because you're drawing attention to them, which they will appreciate. You're sending traffic that way, their way. And when you're prepping for a new release, obviously you can use up more than 20% because you have something really special to announce. But to your point, Penny, the other 80% should really be complimentary content, content that helps followers get to know you better. So as you said, if your book has a historical element, sharing what was going on in the world at that time is really probably going to be very interesting to people that read historical fiction. If you write thrillers, you can post updates on what's hitting the news cycle in the world of true crime. Like realistically, if people are reading domestic thrillers and things like that, they're probably following true crime as well. So you really want to connect the dots with things that interest people. You kind of see this pattern here where it's like, okay, I get to talk about myself because I'm also talking about other things that they are interested in. And then, of course, they're getting to know you in the process. So there's also really fun, easy ways. Pets are almost always a slam dunk. Everybody loves a cute pet photo. So you can also do cameos from your family if you're comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. Images of your workspace and recommendations, your favorite coffee brand. Do you have a favorite coffee that you drink, especially when you're writing? Like things like this are really personal, and people love that kind of insight into what goes on behind the curtain. And the point is you want to be interesting and you want to be liked. And now we're all having flashbacks to like the first week of junior high, but that really is what social media is about. It's about being liked and it's about being interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, one of the other things is once you start posting, so the element of finding something to post and then don't post and ditch, especially if you're now just on one platform, and really invest your time in being there. So engage with people, like their comments. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to respond to each of their comments, but for sure, like them. And you can comment, obviously, if you want to, because your engagement also helps your engagement helps the overall visibility, and it helps the individual site algorithm. And I, some of the posts that I put like on my personal Facebook page, which I keep really not personal stuff, but some of my posts get, 2 comments and some of them get more. And I always, always, always try to go back and engage with people who are, posting a comment. Although I will say I post a meme, just some random meme that I found, and I posted it, and it's up to like 70,000 shares and 3,000 comments. I don't know really what happened. Like, I don't know how that happened. Like, I think it's a mistake, but just in case you're somebody that commented on that, I'm not looking at 3,000 comments because I've got a lot to do. I would love to, I looked at that and I thought, why don't my books get 670,000 shares? But for the most part, like everything that I post across the board, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, all of it gets some, and I'm on all those sites, but also I didn't start out on all of those sites. Like I started out on years ago. I started out on one. I like to say that we've been in business before there was Facebook, which makes us, well, me anyway, sound really old, but it's true, not the old part, just the Facebook part. So I think that you have to, the more that you engage with people there, the more that it builds community, but it also does help your overall visibility algorithm on the individual sites too.
That makes so much sense. And also to that point, the engagement factor, that should also drive, again, back to, Penny, when you mentioned the biggest thing people struggle with is what to post.
Yeah.
And so think about also what's interesting to talk about. Like, don't just think about what's interesting to post as a flat concept of that's where it ends. Think about what you can post that also creates a conversation back and forth, because that really should be the end goal. Not that you want to get stuck into this, spin cycle of back and forth necessarily, but you really don't want to ever post flat content. You want to post something that encourages people to respond in some form. And honestly, I really encourage a lot of our clients that are struggling with this to come up with themes that interest them, that work for their follower base, that work for the genre or topic they write in. We had a client recently that really wanted to work their dog into their Instagram presence, which I absolutely had a soft spot for. I thought that was amazing. And they weren't really sure how to do it in a way that was natural, because it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with their book or the kind of books they write or anything like that. But just based on our brainstorming, this client also has a really great sense of humor. And so we kind of brainstormed it and came up with this idea that he should do a weekly post of his dog, but with life tips from the dog's perspective.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I know, as kind of a way to work into, because few people can resist a cute picture of a dog with a little humor thrown in there. So, but because this author has a great sense of humor, and because that came very naturally to them, and then you add in the dog element, it was just going to be something that was going to be very easy for him to create and come up with. And then he could do a post like that once a week. And there you've got one post a week covered on Instagram in a way that's very natural and just fits his personality, and is also going to be something that people are going to want to comment on. And that really adds, it starts whittling away at this kind of beast of a concept of managing and posting on social media when you start planning out themes that you can repeat over and over again, but in creative ways. Other authors, I've encouraged them to do a monthly video update on how the writing's going. Our more prolific authors that are constantly pumping out books, a video update kind of saying how the writing process is going, where you're at with the latest book is really exciting. If you're a foodie, get a post with your favorite recipe or meal of the week in there. If gardening is your thing, find a way to work that in. I encourage authors it's a great activity. I encourage them to make a list of what interests them, like what comes natural to them, what happens consistently in their lives, and then pare that down to a short list of things that you can get creative with and stick to. And all of a sudden you've developed this kind of online persona that people can start to resonate with, because there's something consistent about it. They start to understand who you are more as a person. And again, most of the time, if you're really interested in what you're posting, it comes through. and people, even if it's not directly related to your book, it still resonates with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I know that Amy loves schedules. I'm the creative one. She's the organized mind. That's probably why we've worked together so well for so long. But she's right. I mean, you've got to plan this. And at first it's going to feel a little bit awkward. But setting a schedule really, really helps. And it also, the other reason that I like to find, like I mentioned, like find the tracks that you're going to talk about, is it does set an expectation of your audience of when they're going to see your post. So like, for example, if every Thursday you do a Throwback Thursday post, they're going to get used to that and they're going to expect it. And then one of the other things that I will say in terms of content is bank your content. I have screenshots and memes more than I will ever need. Like if anybody ever finds my phone, they're just going to think that all I do is take pictures of my dog and find funny memes. But really find content that you can bank, because then when you need it, it's there. What happens a lot of times is authors get on social media and they just start scrambling, like, oh my God, what am I going to post? And then it ends up taking up a ton of your time. Bank your content. It'll save you so much time in the long run.
That's so true, Penny. That's a really good point. Like there is an element, and it's funny because now they're going to think, well, like, great. Now they can't figure out what they're really telling us to do, because while planning and scheduling and figuring out themes and tracks is definitely going to help you minimize the chaos around determining what you're going to post, there is an element of not overthinking it that you have to keep in mind too. So take pictures of things that interest you, save things that make you laugh or inspire you. Like in that regard, don't overthink it. Like when you're banking your content, don't sit there forever thinking, like, don't spend 10 minutes trying to figure out like, should I take a picture of this? Is it really going to work on my Instagram later? It's like, don't do that. Just take the damn picture. Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And then when you actually go to your schedule or your checklist or whatever works for you in regards to kind of wrestling this beast into submission, then you'll have it there. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you can delete it later. But it's a lot easier to pare down than it is and it'll take you a lot less time to just sit there and grab something that's already there than it will to overthink it and go, well, do I really need this? Should I save this one? So kind of go with your gut in that regard too, because something that might seem boring or simple at face value in the moment can turn into something really beautiful or cool with the right filter and a clever caption later. So don't underestimate sometimes what you might consider simple or boring or not interesting to your followers, because when you're planning out your content and kind of mapping out what you're going to post for the next couple of weeks, you might find out that like, oh, that actually works really well here. Like that's a good time for me to post this.
Yeah. And you'll find, I think, that your audience is going to tell you as you start to see the engagement on your post, your audience will start to tell you what they want to see more of, right? And you'll get that sense of it from the comments and from the likes and things like that. And I think that, much like, just to use the Vegas casino analogy, social media is alluring. Like you want to keep scrolling and clicking. And honestly, one thing that I really recommend in terms of just paring down your time is, set a certain time aside each day. Like, for example, I will get on Facebook on my personal account. I get on Facebook first thing in the morning, after my coffee, of course, because God knows what I'd post before coffee. But I get on Facebook and I just, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And I get on there and I post and then I'm done and I don't check it again until later. So the term post and ditch, yes, I'm posting and technically, yes, I'm ditching until later, but I also don't want to get embroiled in, I want to be selective about when I'm checking back for likes or comments. So I can get in later that day and start to like the comments or post a comment. And sometimes I'll even find time, like there are always pockets of time, like you're in traffic or you're at the grocery store, you're waiting in line for something else that you can dip into. So you're dipping in and out of your social media without necessarily losing your life on all of these portals, because it can burn you out really quickly because they're such huge time sucks.
Absolutely. I mean, social media is challenging mostly because it can suck up a lot of time, and time is precious. It's more precious than money at this point for a lot of people. You can't get that back. So, and a lot of times we're often really too close to our own work to come with like really what we feel are interesting ideas for what to post, like on the fly. So again, that's why, we've covered a lot of, hopefully, we've given you some inspiration about how to manage your time. We've scratched the surface in regards to different ideas and ways to pare down where you should focus your content, and ideas like things that you can come up with that you can repeat over and over again that really come natural to you. But definitely do some more brainstorming, follow other authors in your genre, follow other accounts that post about things that interest you. And just like a puzzle coming together, you'll start to kind of see what works, and you're going to start to see really beautiful accounts that is something as easy as the right filter all of a sudden just takes it up a level. So even when you're like, I'm not really good at taking pictures, it's amazing what a filter can do. So don't. And again, we do a lot of coaching. I know, another shameless plug, sorry, but honestly, it really is. It's easy to get too close to your own work. And sometimes it really just does take an hour or so of someone pushing you in the right direction and then all of a sudden things start clicking, and then you've got it for the long term. So instead of, spinning in circles with it, sometimes it just helps to step outside of that a bit, get some, outside feedback. And it's amazing how quickly things can start coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, listen to your audience, because your audience will, neither of us hop on to social media and just instantly know what's going to resonate. I mean, you really have to test the landscape a little bit. But like I said, start with one social media site. If you've got others that you haven't really done anything with, you're listening to this, you're thinking, what am I going to do? Post one of those referral messages and just say, look, you can find me on Twitter or you can find me on Instagram. And then just really, really focus and get your message down, because that is it's going to save you a lot of time that you can get back to with writing, but it's also going to save you a lot of time in general. And I think a lot of frustration. And I want to just, remind everybody listening that we're always open to listener questions. In fact, we got a great question today, and we're going to save it for the next show, but because we want to get a little bit of time to dig into it. But we love listener questions and we love reviews. So anywhere you listen to podcasts, please post a review. We love it. Let us know when you reviewed it. We love that too. And be on the lookout for From Book to Bestseller, which is coming out very soon. So excited that book is coming out soon. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what everybody thinks. This is Penny Sansevieri and Amy Cornell, and this is the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.